How did you get from there to there?
Completely overwhelmed the entire system. We're in the middle of a motorway here. There's still cars passing us. It
Yes.
pushes you,
Gets you
bounces
going.
you to that next level.
Yeah. So they go to school, they go to uni, they go back to school. Inspiring the future.
Inspiring the future.
First aid course, not really something you would get totally excited about and stuff, but I actually really enjoyed your one, and I think it was with the stories and stuff that come with it as well, because you obviously got like, a lot of experience, and then so it wasn't just somebody that's been pulled the short straw and been made to go and teach some people first aid. And one of the things that struck me as well from the first aid thing was actually because I was there with, was it Jordan I was there with as well, and he was about half my size. I don't know if you remember that, we were playing with the what's it squeezing thing for the Heimlich, but it was the CPR, whereas because I don't know if I would say fitter, but stronger definitely, it was a lot easier for me to do the CPR, the pushing, than it was for Jordan.
Yeah.
So I was just using my body weight. So I guess the question that comes off the back of that, and what we've talked about before, is the stronger you are, is it going to be easier for survivability?
It depends. It absolutely depends. It depends on your mindset.
Okay.
'Cause you could be super strong, and you can go into 2-3 rounds of CPR and you'll be absolutely knackered.
Yeah.
Absolutely destroyed. But then after that, it's whether your mind's strong enough to keep going.
Okay.
You know, so there is a lot of, it's the same in fitness, it's the same in sport, it's the same in any kind of activity you do. You've got to have a level of mindset to do it.
Yeah.
You've also got you're not just looking at the when you're looking at doing CPR, we were doing the training on it in a training environment.
Yeah.
That's nowhere near the real life scenario of actually doing CPR. So you also have the physical, psychological and physiological problems that you have to overcome, as well as doing the physical element of the activity as well. So you're doing the CPR, but you've also got the adrenaline rush. You've got the 3 Fs, the fight, flight or freeze happening, and then you've got at the end of it the adrenaline dump. So you've got to deal with all these emotions and deal with all these kind of physical things that are happening to your body, as well as trying to help this person that's lying on the ground. So it really does come down to training and mindset.
Yeah.
If you've been trained well and you continue your development in that training, then you'll do well. It's like, if you entered a sort of bodybuilding tournament, have you trained for it, did it, and then stopped training afterwards but did another one, are you going to do as well?
Yeah.
You're not, so it's the exact same as first aid.
Yeah. I get it's the same as training as well. You can train for someone in the gym in a comfortable environment and where everything's controlled, and then when you actually go in to do like competing or into an event, or God forbid having to do CPR, and with everything happening all around, it's going to be totally different.
And you've not got to just think about you, the person that's doing the CPR. You've got to think about the people around you as well, because they're all experiencing the exact same thing as what you are.
Yeah.
And they will react in completely different ways to what you will as well. So you have to count that into the fact that you might have to do the CPR by yourself.
Yeah.
Or they might come and join in.
Yeah.
Depending on what fight, flight or freeze response they have.
Yeah, and there's limited control over that, I guess, as well. You can't control what other people are doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, you told me a story when we were doing that of I think it was the longest time you'd had to do CPR on somebody. Can you remember that story? It was was it on a motorway or something?
Yeah, so this is a story that my wife Tracy hates me here speaking about, because it's one that I do speak about often, and it's one that's quite relevant. I did CPR for 45 minutes, and I was as part of a bigger team there, so I wasn't just it was me physically doing the CPR element of it, but there was someone that was physically doing the airway, and someone that was operating the defib, someone that was gaining IV access, someone that was doing administering the medication, someone that was doing the logistic part of, we're in the middle of a motorway here, there's still cars passing us, flying by, but we're having to do CPR, and we're having to just forget about the dangers all around us and focus on the task in hand. But so it was down in London 2012 at the Olympics.
Right.
And Boris Johnson was the mayor of London at the time, and he basically did a televised kind of thing to tell everybody to come to London and physically watch the Olympics rather than stay at home and watch it on the TV.
Yeah.
And they did. They arrived in droves, and it completely overwhelmed the entire system, which meant that they had sent. I was working for the British Red Cross at the time, and it meant that they had to deploy people from all over the UK to come and help the ambulance service and the hospitals and things like that.
So a lot of volunteers.
So a lot of volunteers came from all over the UK and were put up in London essentially, but we were tasked to go to these different locations. And looking back on it and the experiences I have now, I know exactly why we were sent there. There was a bigger kind of political reason as to why we were there and why we were put in these sort of situations. But then we were like, oh wow, we're right at the forefront of this. This is brilliant. This is great. But if you look at what history tells you, if you look at 2005, 2007, the 2005, that's when London was told that they were going to be in the Olympics. It was going to be at there. And there was a terrorist attack in London.
Right.
And then there was one in 2007, which they thought was going to be the warm-up for 2012.
Okay.
So essentially, we were the cannon fodder in a sense, because we were in the places where the first two initial attacks took place.
Wow.
In the subways. We didn't know that at the time. We just thought we were volunteering and having a great time in London. You know?
Wow. So what was the purpose? They were keeping the real guys for when shit happened.
Well, essentially, that's what you're looking at. So you'd have your first responders in there, and then you'd have your ambulances coming in secondary to whatever occurred. If you look into into that kind of thing. When we were down there, it was quite interesting because it was a really high intense kind of environment that you were going into. You were aware that there was briefings that you went to, that they were talking about potential terrorist attacks and things like that, and there was some areas of London that there was events in, and we were offered stab vests to go in and wear these stab vests if we were doing first aid in these areas and things like that. So it was a completely different environment from doing your typical 10k local run or something like that, you know. So there was a lot more factors involved in the London job, but it was an experience of a lifetime as well. It was the reason why I became a nurse. That, in fact, that one particular case where I worked with some amazing paramedics from the push bike paramedics, they were called. And that's essentially, they carried everything that you'd have in an ambulance but on a push bike, and they would cycle ridiculous amounts of distances all across London to get to different jobs, and they would get there before the ambulance would, just because of the level of traffic and stuff and things like that. So I worked with these two particular paramedics on a job the day before. It was a person under a train. Unfortunately, that person didn't survive, but I just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time on that one.
Right.
I was literally, you left your accommodation with all your kit, and you travelled to the train station that you were going to be based at for the day. Right. And it was when I was en route to that train station that I came across there was a person on the train stopped, we got off. I tried to give some assistance. You could clearly tell that there was no life. And then these two push bike paramedics were the first ones that arrived. I had a good chat with them, spoke with them, afterwards, did a bit of a debrief, and we really got into the conversation of how they became push bike paramedics and this kind of thing. And then lo and behold, the very next day, I'm immersed in this CPR incident in the middle of a motorway, and these two are the two paramedics that come and assist. So they were like, Colin, just crack on, keep going, you do your CPR, we'll come in and do the rest of the bits and bobs. But what they didn't realise is that I'd been doing the CPR prior to that, so I'd been doing it for quite a while, before they arrived, for a good sort of 15 minutes or so, and it was exhausting, absolutely exhausting. But I had that mindset and that strength to carry on, because at the time, I was a scrawny little bugger that, didn't really have a lot of meat on me. Still don't really have a lot of meat on me. But at the time, I had the mindset to say, I am the only reason, I have to keep going. I'm the only person that's volunteered to do this. So if I stop, then these paramedics have to take over, and it means that they can't get on with the bits that they need to do. So that's what kept me going.
Damn. Yeah. That's intense. So what? And then so you went into nursing after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what? How did you get from nursing to then? Would you call it a dojo?
Dojo.
Yeah.
Yes,
So you Mindsparx dojo at the harbour, is that right? Was it the harbour? Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. How did you get from there to there?
Long story, actually.
Yeah.
So if we look right back, before British Red Cross, before I was a swimming teacher, before I was a lifeguard, and take it right back to the very beginning, year 2000, I was hit with a bit of 1999, I was hit with a bit of a crossroads in my life. And interestingly, one of my academy teachers, can I mention her name? Can I proper do her in?
Go for it. We can always edit it out later.
Mrs. Patterson, she's called, and she was probably the epitome of what you would not want as your teacher.
Okay.
The absolutely the complete opposite of inspirational. And she said to me on my very last day of school, Colin, you've got two options in life. You can join the dole or you can join the army. And that is it. Yeah. And that was my inspiration when I left school.
To prove her wrong.
And so, well, not to prove her wrong, that was it. That's what I was faced with. That was the
Okay.
crossroads that I was faced with. So in 1999, I was like, right, I'll join the army. Because I refused to go on the dole.
Yeah.
Because she said it, So whether or not she's some amazing teacher behind the scenes of it that gives
knew all
along that I was going to inspire to do something else, or was I going to just join everybody else and go in the dole?
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of options available for me, and I didn't stick in at school. I didn't do well in school. I left with one qualification, one standard grade.
Wow.
And that's just because I liked the subject.
Yeah.
But interestingly, it led on to what I'm now doing, in the science, and it was science that I did really well in. So that stemmed from there, and I joined the army, but what I didn't realise was that I had asthma.
Right.
But I'd been gone undiagnosed. So I had asthma, and my peak flow was really low. And so when I went down to Edinburgh to start my training for the army, or go through that first initial phase, they found that my peak flow was too low for the registered pass rate.
Okay.
So they couldn't pass me. Although I did my 1.5 mile run,
Yeah.
I did it in a ridiculously fast time. I did all the press-ups, I did all the sit-ups, I did everything that they wanted me to do and passed it with flying colours. But the one thing that stopped me was this peak flow.
Wow.
And funnily enough, everything that I've done in life, including my black belt test, my peak flow never stopped me.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't good enough for the army. So unfortunately, I didn't pass the medical, which left me with a big problem.
Yeah.
Because in my head, oh my God, all I've got is a dole. I refuse to go in that dole. So what I found at the time was that there was a guy from Manchester who had opened a sort of state-of-the-art dojo in Elgin.
Okay.
In 2000. And that guy was Lee Sansom.
Right.
And you can Google him if you want to go into all that kind of detail
Yeah.
if you want. But he's an interesting chap. And he became my mentor for the best part of 20 years.
Right.
Probably longer than 20, up until this date. We've kind of broke communication now. We'd no longer communicate, but he still continues to be my mentor in ways that I didn't really think was the case.
Yeah.
But getting back to it, so I started martial arts. I walked in. In fact, I didn't walk in. I stood outside the door for about 45 minutes. And it was unlucky for me, but one of the instructors tipped up and opened the door for me and says, "Oh, on you go." So that was the reason why I stepped through that door, because at the time I was really underconfident. I had low self-esteem. I just didn't believe in anything. I could barely make eye contact with someone. I could barely communicate with someone, and we would not be having this conversation 25 years ago. And then from that point, I just flew. I just thought, wow, this is amazing. This is like the best thing I've ever seen. It was like almost, when you first go and watch a martial art movie, and you're like, wow, I really want to be able to do what they're doing. That's exactly how it felt when I walked in there. I felt I want to do what they're doing.
Cool.
Yeah. and that was it. 6 years solid of training in Master Lee Sansom's gym, and within the first year, I asked him. I says, "Can I be an instructor?" And with very little experience. And I kind of half hoped that he would say no, because I didn't have the confidence to stand up there and take a class. And he said yes, and he said, "I'll train you."
Wow.
And that's what he did, and I got to work and be at one of the best martial arts schools in the UK at the time.
Right.
And my classes, I still hold records to the amount of people that were in my classes.
Yeah.
Once I got good and once I understood the industry and that kind of thing. So that was going to be my retirement plan.
Okay.
But after COVID, or during COVID, before COVID actually, things really changed, and I thought, why wait? Why wait until I retire?
Yeah.
It was actually, I looked after a patient in intensive care, and because of what happened to that patient, really made me sit down and think, I need to make some proper changes here. I am not waiting until I'm 60 and something like this happens to me. I'm doing it now.
Yeah.
So I got my wife on board and said, let's open a dojo. We just happened to open it 6 months before COVID.
Wow. Oh shit. Yeah, I think COVID put things into perspective for a lot of people.
It did, yeah.
It seemed to go two ways. It was either people buried their head and really didn't cope, or people really thrived out of that.
Yeah, I would say that we thrived. I was still working full time as an ICU nurse, which was, as I said on the course, it was one of the most dangerous places to work during COVID.
Yeah.
It wasn't because of COVID. If you had COVID, I had COVID, we're having a wee chat. It would take at least 15 minutes for that to spread over, fully, and me to get a full dose of it. But when you're working under high pressure oxygen and air and things like that, that's when that COVID becomes a lot stronger, and can become a lot more dangerous. But thankfully, weirdly, being in the most dangerous environment, I felt really safe.
Yeah.
We had all the right PPE. We were gowned up. We had the big masks on, and that kind of thing. Felt 100% safe. But then after the second wave of COVID, I decided to leave the intensive care environment. I went and worked in nurse management for a year, which was absolutely boring. Absolutely hated it. And I wanted to get back into clinical as fast as I could, and I was willing to take an absolute cut in levels to get there.
Yeah.
I was willing to go right back down to the very basic band 5 to get back into care again and back
save your sanity.
Because nurse management done me in for a year, and it just wasn't pretty. It was a dog eat dog world, and I was like, I don't like this. It's not good. So I went back into a care environment for about 6 months, before I realised that the tax man was really killing it, because I was working full time, but I also had a full time dojo.
Okay.
And both taxes were just too high, so unfortunately I had to leave that stint of care. But before that, I got COVID. I got COVID because the PPE just wasn't up to scratch.
Right.
It was stuff that you could buy in B&Q.
Yeah.
It just wasn't all that great. So I'd gone from this really, really dangerous environment of where COVID was rife and there was other things going on and other conditions and things like that, to an environment that is like in a care home that's pretty basic, pretty alright. There's not much COVID going about, you feel pretty safe, but you're wearing this pathetic kind of PPE and you get COVID.
Yeah.
But thankfully, it was at a less dangerous level.
Yeah. Damn.
So getting back to as I say, I waffle. Getting back to why now, why the dojo now?
Yeah.
Is it was that one patient that I looked after in ICU that she unfortunately passed away as a result of waiting.
Right.
She had plans with her husband to go on all these amazing cruises. Had saved up their entire 60 years of working together, and on the day that she retired, she was hit by a forklift truck.
No way.
When she was picking up her gifts, the only reason why she was there was to pick up her gifts that the that employment had given her for her retirement party.
Damn.
Yeah, and she got hit by a forklift truck. She was dragged for about 400 metres without the person driving the truck knowing. And unfortunately, she was degloved from the waist down.
Wow.
And from that, she passed away from a major infection, and didn't get to live the life that she'd waited so long to live.
Yeah.
And the husband said it as well, and he says, we've waited too long. You know, we didn't get to do the things that we wanted to do. And literally that night, I came off a night shift and I was reading my book, and you know, I was in the middle of the night because I couldn't get out of the night shift mode, and I was reading a book about Tony Robbins' book actually.
Okay.
And it was Awaken the Giant Within, and I think reading that and looking after this patient was enough for me to say, let's do something now. Let's not wait any longer. And had we known that COVID was coming, we probably still would have done it, because I just refused to wait any longer. I needed to get this done.
Yeah.
I'm highly driven, highly motivated. It's getting done, you know. And we opened 2 days a week in a church hall,
Right.
in Bridget-on.
Okay.
The only problem with that is it's a church hall, so there's a lot of weddings and a lot of funerals, which meant that my classes were getting cancelled left, right and centre, and we just couldn't sustain it. So we went to move that, you know, once COVID happened, we were stuck outside, and we trained, I would probably say almost all year round outside doing karate in a park. And it was in a park that the wind just flew through. It was freezing cold, you know, but everybody tipped up every day. We kept a core amount of students. I think it was about 30 students at the time.
Wow.
That would just continuously come and train. And we actually started to build. People would be walking through the park saying, what are you doing?
Okay,
And,
yeah.
you know,
it's pretty good advertising as well.
Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, come and join. People actually joined us while we were out at training in the park. So all they knew of martial arts was doing it in a park, in the freezing cold, in the bitter cold. But it gave us a good strong foundation. You know, we were still doing all the martial arts schools in the UK. They'd kind of stopped what they were doing. They went to an online model, but they'd never done an online model before. We did it as well, but they stopped everything that they normally would do in martial arts, including all their gradings and things like that. So the reward system was lost.
Right.
But we didn't. We kept going. We did our first online grading.
Okay.
And we took, with maybe our 30, 40 students that we had at the time, we essentially hand delivered their belt to their door.
Oh, nice.
Obviously at distance and all that kind of stuff. And then we went back, got on the big screen, and then we went through each person and announced their belt, and then they could take it out the packet and like,
cool,
that kind of thing, you know. And it kept people going. It gave people, our guys, and I really believe this, our guys, when we were allowed to go back out and about and things like that, our guys bounced back quicker than everybody else, like in their schools and things like that. Their confidence was just already there. But the people that were stuck in lockdown, that didn't do much activity, maybe did, what's that guy pranced about?
Started on him.
Him.
What's his name? He's got all the cookbooks.
Yeah.
We've got them in our house as well. Joe Wicks.
Joe Wicks, that's the one, right? So everybody pranced around to Joe Wicks and all that kind of stuff. But Joe Wicks didn't give them confidence.
No.
He didn't give them life skills. He just gave them an opportunity to move their arms and legs about, you know. Yeah. Had he thought about it, and maybe rather than doing it for free and killing every gym's, you know, everybody that did fitness classes, they could have made some profit from that. But Joe Wicks, no, he did it for free, so it meant, and all the celebrities were doing it for free. Yeah. So it put the pressure on the gym users and the martial arts schools to have to do it for a low cut price. Yeah. You know? Yeah. But they're still delivering high quality classes. So yeah, that was my take on that part anyway during COVID. But we kept going. We kept pushing through, and the very second we knew, I kind of had some privy information working in healthcare as to when Sturgeon was going to announce that we were going to be out with the lockdown. So myself and Tracy, we started looking for a commercial property because we knew that if this was going to work, it was only going to work if we were in a commercial property. It wasn't going to work in a games hall. It wasn't going to work in a church hall, and it certainly wasn't going to work outside because it was just too cold. If we lived in the Caribbean, then fantastic,
different,
do on, you know. But in Scotland, it was just the cold and the bitterness and stuff like that just wasn't going to grow. So we found a place, and literally in May, as Sturgeon was coming out of lockdown, we signed that lease. We signed it for 5 years, and we're still in there.
Brilliant.
We're coming up to the end of our 5 years.
Yeah.
And
that's great. And do you think it was, so you got into that through, like you talked about standing outside the dojo and might have never made it in hadn't somebody turned up and got on. Is that what made you want to do it this time round and specifically for kids as well, is because that confidence that it helped you grow getting in there yourself?
Yeah, I mean, martial arts has been the reason why I'm so successful.
Just
and I'm
with
not
the
saying
mindset.
I'm not saying that in a big-headed kind of way, but I am successful because I've gone from step to step to step to step, and I've continued to grow.
Yeah.
And I'm successful because I surround myself with successful people.
Yeah.
My wife's successful. My business partner is successful. The people that come to our dojo and gain the life skills that they want become successful. So I'm completely surrounded by successful people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you want to do anything right, you need to surround yourself in the people that the thing that you want.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree.
So I think looking back at it, everything that I learned back in that initial phase was the training that was required to open the dojo.
Yeah.
But at the same time, looking back at it, it was a stepping stone effect. So even when I worked as a lifeguard, I didn't really have the best self-esteem or the best confidence. I was a young guy working as a lifeguard. I should have been out drinking every weekend with all the other lifeguards and socialising, but I wasn't. I was at home, I was playing Xbox, I was watching DVDs, and I was a bit of a recluse.
Yeah.
I didn't have that sort of social interaction that I wanted to go out and do these kind of things. But the martial arts changed that for me. The martial arts allowed me to be social, allowed me to go out and with the team and do that kind of thing. And it pushed me to do things that I would never have done had I just carried on with a normal life.
Yeah.
So and the experiences that I got to do while part of that 6-year period were just amazing. I competed for my country. I travelled for the very first time in my life. I went on a plane for the first time. I met people from all over the world, trained with people all over the world, competed at the highest level, went to the World Championships, European Championships, all these kind of different tournaments. And it was just the most amazing experience, all packed into 6 years.
Yeah.
But at the end of the 6 years, and the reason I left it all behind. But I left it for a good reason rather than a not so good reason. A lot of people, they spent a bit of time in the league, maybe a year, 2 years, didn't have a great deal of experience of like, I can do this. And they go off and try and open up a dojo.
Okay.
And, and some people really did it in a dirty way. They would, they didn't do it in a nice way. They didn't go to them and say, can you help me get a dojo? They just said, I'm going to do exactly what you're doing. I'm going to take your students in the process, that kind of way. And it was just all backhanded. And when I left, I didn't want to open a dojo. I was like, that's the last thing I want to do. What I want to do is I want to go and get some life experience. Because all I've known for the last 6 years is everything that's within this dojo.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel the most confident when I'm in that dojo. I can do anything. I could do whatever you want. If you ask me to do something inside that dojo, I'll do it. If I step outside the dojo, not so confident anymore.
Okay, yeah.
Because I've not got my own life stories. I do, but I don't have fresh ones, exciting ones, that kind of thing. I've got an interest in childhood, but I don't have an interest in adulthood. So I needed to go and find my own stories because all I was doing was I was telling Lee's stories.
Yeah.
So my students only knew Lee's story. They didn't know my story.
Okay.
So that's the reason why at that point I left that behind to go and get some life experience. Became a lifeguard, became a swimming teacher, worked for the British Red Cross all over the UK, became an ambulance technician for the British Red Cross, got an accommodation for saving that person's life in London. Then going on to university, first person in my family to go to university.
Okay.
And first person to get a degree
Yeah.
in my family, you know, and then go on to do postgrad courses and things like that, you know. And I've studied at 3 different universities in that space of time. And would I want to do another degree? Yeah. Do I really have the time for it? Absolutely not. You know, so but yeah, it gave me the stepping stone that I needed to find the life story that I wanted.
Yeah.
And that's where nursing came in.
Okay.
You know? And you know, in the 13 years that I've been in healthcare, you know, 3 of those training and working as a healthcare assistant in these kind of roles, and then 10 years being qualified as a nurse and working in some amazing environments and meeting amazing people from all over the world.
Yeah.
It's a complete privilege.
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
and that's what made this. That's what made Mindsparx. One of the key reasons, and I look at it as I spent 3 years in cardiac ITU and I spent 3 years in general ITU. When I was in cardiac ITU, I noticed a trend. I noticed something happening, and this is really relevant to fitness, gyms, that kind of thing. It was that I was making zero difference. I was literally keeping people alive for the shift that I was on.
Right.
Then I would come back in, I'd do the same the next shift. I'd come back in, I'm just keeping them alive. I'm just keeping them going until they recover. Yeah. I didn't change their mindset. I didn't put an impact on them to say, do you know what, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to smoke, I'm not going to eat crap food. You know, I didn't make any impact whatsoever on there.
Yeah.
So the people that we're looking after, yeah, we were really good in keeping them alive and getting them out of hospital. But 2 years later, we were looking after the same people. The same people were coming back time and time again to have the same procedures.
Conveyor belt.
Yeah, and it was literally like a conveyor belt. It's the best way to describe it. We made zero difference to the people that were coming in. We made no changes to their habits, no changes to their lifestyle, no change whatsoever. They were just willing to go through the same process again and again and again until unfortunately we weren't good enough. Till we weren't good enough to save their life, and they did pass away as a result. You know, and it was that point I was like, nursing isn't changing anything here. We're literally just patching things up, and sending them off. Yeah, and it was at that point I realised, I said, at what part of their life do we need to make a change? Absolutely, when they're kids.
Yeah,
early on, and that's why we decided to open a martial arts school, a dojo for children.
Yeah.
And there is adults that do train with us, but the main focus is the children, because we know that we can make the changes that they need before they become the adult. You know, and then we've got kids that have been training with us for 5 years.
Okay.
That whole span of time that they've been training, we've got kids that have came when they were this high, small, really young, to now teenagers.
Right.
You know, and the impact that we've had, and I said this to Tracy very recently, I says, we need to be very careful of the information that we tell our students, because they believe us. Everything that we say, they do it. You know, I spoke to 2 girls the other week. They were coming along for a training session. It was a specialised training session that I've created for a group of individuals that I believe are think on a higher level and can do their technique to a good standard. And it's a competition kata class. And these 2 girls are in the ages of 8 to 10. So they're in that age group, so they're one or the other. And when I opened the door to the dojo to invite these kids into this specialist class, their eyes were glued to their technology. They were completely glued to it. So I actually stood at the door and I didn't say, let's go. I waited, because they knew that the class started at that time. I knew the class started at that time. I just stood at the door and waited. I waited a good 5 minutes before they looked up. And then when they seen my face, they knew that they were late for the class. Yeah, they knew that they'd let me down. And I said, the one biggest distraction in your life and the thing that's going to stop you, prevent you from being a champion, is that technology. Do you think a champion is on their technology half an hour before their class? And the next day they both came in with books.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, and they read their books and they're literally standing at the door reading the book. So when that door opens, they put the book away and they go straight in.
Yeah,
you know.
That's incredible.
I didn't say, do not be on your technology before my class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just literally said, do you think a champion would act in this way? And they did it. And that is ridiculous power that you have and influence on your students.
Yeah, you've got that trust there, and then the influence follows, and the way that you've dealt with it as well, instead of berating them for it, which, you know, depending on their age group, just sounds like an attack and they go into defence mode. But yeah, I think the way they've put it across it's pretty cool. It's made them think and them make the decision themselves.
Yeah.
Which makes all the difference.
Yeah. And that's how we do it. We don't order people. We don't boss people around. We don't. You know, there's nothing untoward how we get the influence of our students. It's literally we give them the choice.
Yeah, I think it's changing the perspective on a lot of things. You know, if you get them to see it differently themselves, then it feels like it's their decision. You know, and that can make all the difference, rather than just telling them what to do and they don't understand why.
If you think about the one thing that we don't have in our life, that we can't have in our life, and that's control. We can't control anything. And once you get past that you can't control anything, then you start looking at things differently. So you can't control that child to not have technology or not do technology. But the minute you give someone a choice, they take back a little element of control, which gives them power, which makes them feel great.
Yeah.
Now, the two choices might not be great choices, but they're going to choose one.
Yeah.
One's going to look better than the other one. So if we have someone that's misbehaving, so misbehaving in class, and misbehaving, it's not the same as, you know, they're not being abusive, they're not being, you know, it's nothing bad like that, but maybe they're just not paying attention to what you're doing, or maybe they're talking over you, or talking back, or something like that. You know, kids do weird things. And you say, look, you've got a choice here. You can listen to me and have fun, or you can go sit with your mum outside. But then your mum's going to know that you've done something.
Yeah.
Yeah? So you let it just churn away in their brain. You don't tell them that your mum's going to know. You don't tell them that part. But you let them think about it. And they'll say, oh, I'm going to listen and take part, because they know the consequence is that their mum is going to know that they've misbehaved in the class, and then the mum's going to be embarrassed, and then so on and so forth, you know. And then when you get out the dojo, they're in trouble, you know. They're going to get a telling off. So they look at the choice aspect of it and choose the better option, and then they pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's when you know. So you just give them a choice, and it's the same as, you know, the kids with the technology. They made a conscious choice to say, I'm not going to use my technology before my class because I want to be a champion.
Yeah.
You know, and the champion mindset that we promote in our club is that. It's exactly that.
Yeah.
They get to choose to be that champion. We don't make them be a champion. They get the choice, which gives them control.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you find that more? So I've got very. It kind of resonated with me a little bit when you were saying about it wasn't really fulfilling doing the nursing thing, kind of just patching and moving on, then not coming back again. But now it seems like you're a lot more happy doing the dojo stuff and teaching kids and taking them through that kind of similar journey as what you did. I nowhere near the same thing, because I was a Sparky before I was a PT.
Yeah.
But even so, I get a lot more fulfillment from coaching people, from training people now, because they can see the change, they can make changes, change their mindset, they grow, they level up. It's completely different from going and fixing somebody's electrics. Do you know what I mean? It's a service, it's kind of service that provider expecting that they're not any better off after you leave. Do you know what I mean? It's just kind of swapping services to then actually changing people's lives, basically. Is that similar for yourself? Like you get more fulfillment out of this side of it?
It's interesting that, and I'm gonna depict that ever so slightly, because it's our perception is that we didn't help.
Okay.
You know, I was in nursing, as I said, for that 10-year period. Now, I don't think I made a major impact, but I wonder how the patients felt.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay,
you don't
yeah.
think that you made a major impact being a Sparky, but I wonder how many clients had satisfaction of your work.
yeah.
You know, and so when you look at it from a different lens, as I like to say, if you see the world through a different lens, you see a different world. You know, so if you look at it from their perspective and see what they see.
Yeah.
So it changes it up slightly. So yes, you won't get the same fulfillment as a Sparky as you do. Because you're seeing physical results.
Yeah.
You're seeing big changes in people as you train them.
Yeah.
And it's the same with us. We're seeing changes in children that are just, ridiculously amazing. We've taken. So after COVID, I'm going to use our competition campaign as an example. So we were late back into the game in regards to tournament competition. Our students were just simply not ready. We were transitioning from sport karate to karate. And sport karate, you can go, it's right on the tipping point of, you can go down the kickboxing route or you can go into the kumite karate route. So when you're in that sport karate bubble, you've got that option, and we were playing about with both at the time and seeing what would be absolutely best for our students that we had. And it's not to say that one martial art is better than the other.
Yeah.
It's not to say that one is more fulfilling than the other. Most martial arts, it's not the martial art that you go for, it's the experience.
Yeah.
It's the life skill, and all martial art instructors are teaching life skills. Whether they want to believe it or not, that's what they're teaching. They just happen to be teaching a skill at the same time. It doesn't matter what that skill is, you're teaching life skills. That's just, we've got a school of life skills as well as we teach karate.
Yeah.
The karate is the bonus part. The karate is you learn all the cool moves, but at the same time, you get to become the most successful version of you at the same time. So it's a better way to look at it as, yeah, we say that we're not fulfilled, but from the other side, I bet you they were
pretty happy about it.
Pretty happy about the experience that you gave, pretty happy that I kept them alive.
Yeah, it's that perspective thing again as well, I guess. Have you seen the beach ball analogy?
Yes.
Perspective, and it's like two people holding the beach ball, and it's got like different colours on it, and even though they're still holding the same beach ball, they're seeing different colours from each side. So the same thing but different.
Yeah. I've seen a very similar one recently, and it was an argumentative kind of analogy in a sense, and it was basically there was two people. One person was standing facing that way, one person was standing face that way, and the instructor would put a ball in between them, and it was on a table, and both people would turn around and say what colour the ball was, and one person would be arguing saying it's this colour, and the other person would be arguing saying it's this colour, and then he would turn the ball around, and so for the perception of that person, all he could see was a part of the white. It was a white ball, and from the other side the ball was black. So that, from seeing two colours, there's a lot that can be taken from that. And unless you've seen or walked in the shoes of someone else's life, you can't judge that life. You can't be the person that knocks that person back down, because you've not walked in that shoes. You can't be the one to say or make changes to that person's life unless you've walked in their shoes. So see the life from their perspective, and then tell them how to do it.
It's a dojo you run, obviously teaching karate and thing, and I think from maybe a misunderstanding or basic understanding, it's like you're teaching kids how to fight, but that's not what it's all about, is it?
It's absolutely not what it's about.
And like you said, or like the mindset and the life skills is more.
And this is one of our biggest barriers to people coming in and doing karate.
Okay.
Is because people believe that we're teaching, and we get a lot of negative comments on our posts. We've got quite a big marketing campaign, and because we get quite a big reach with that, brings the negative side of social media as well. And we do get a lot of people that just just don't understand, and the more you try to make them understand, the more they resist against you.
Yeah.
So we've learned to just not communicate with them, because they're going to take up probably a good 45 minutes of your time as you're trying to explain the benefits of martial arts.
And you're not going to get anywhere.
And you're not going to get anywhere. And that's what they want, you know, so you don't get embroiled into it. But if you take it back a step and actually look at what is martial arts for? What is martial arts for? What do you think martial arts is for?
Fitness.
So there's a fitness aspect.
Mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, so I did judo when I was younger, and for me, it was never really about the fighting. So if I wanted that, I probably wouldn't have went to boxing or something. But it was the discipline.
Yeah.
You know, the discipline of it. So yeah, we were learning new skills and things, and being more in tune with what our body's capable of, what we were doing with it and stuff. But it was more the discipline I think we were attracted to.
But what part of martial arts is discipline? Discipline is a massive part of martial arts.
Yeah.
Regardless of the martial art you do. What's the discipline about? It's about tipping up at the right time. It's about tipping up twice a week, every week.
Okay, yeah.
It's not about you must do this and you must do that. That's got nothing to do with martial arts. There is some people out there that choose that avenue, and it's more their ego than anything else. But when you take ego out of it and you look at discipline as a whole, it's about making that person more disciplined in their own life. So by getting them to commit to 2 classes per week, minimum 2 classes per week, to getting them to rearrange their already busy schedule to fit our classes in, that's discipline.
Yeah.
To have that consistency to come every single week for 4 years, that's discipline. You know, you want discipline, you do a martial art course for 4 years and you will have discipline. Not in 4 years' time, you'll have discipline from day one.
Yeah.
You know, because it's installed straight away. But it's interesting, when you were describing what martial arts was there, you didn't mention fighting.
No, I think it's maybe a bit, I've already got it in my head that I know that's not really the main focus of it, so I won't say it kind of thing. I don't know if it's maybe that, subconsciously trying not to say it.
Yeah. Now, fighting for me.
And I guess there is elements of that, you know, obviously people will go into sports like that to be able to fight like that, and for self-defense and things, particularly adults, I would say. But yeah, I think it's total misunderstanding. It's sending kids into that environment to learn how to be aggressive kind of thing. That's not what it's about.
I think it's sending kids into the kumite element of karate is essential, especially for kids and kids at a very young age.
Yeah.
Because it teaches them one life skill that nobody wants to teach, and that's failure.
Okay.
You know, so you learn to lose, and you learn to lose quickly.
That's hard for parents to do as well.
That's very hard for parents to do, to put their kids in that kind of environment. They absolutely hate it and they complain about it.
Yeah.
Okay? Because they don't want to see their kid lose. However, let's fast forward to year 16 when they've just done their exams and they've never failed in their life and they fail their exams.
Complete meltdown.
The complete meltdown. And for some, they commit suicide because they think it's the end of the world.
Yeah.
You know? They didn't get that valuable life lesson age 4. That, at the time, they have a meltdown. They have a temper tantrum. Okay, they throw something, they get angry at their parents or they cry. But the next time, it becomes a little bit easier. The next time, a little bit easier. And then, do you know what? I didn't lose this time, I learned. I learned what not to do next time. I'm going to keep going, you know? And that is the one key skill that kumite gives in martial arts. Kumite is the sparring element of karate. Okay, and if you don't have that in your school, then you're kind of almost taking the easy route.
Right.
You're taking the easy route to not not giving your students the full experience of what karate has to offer, or martial arts in a sense. You know? So the winning and losing part is essential to the growth of a person. Yeah. Of a healthy growth of a person. So that at 16, when our kids are doing their exams, and we've got kids doing that right now, a lot of, you know, they're like, I didn't get the grade I wanted, but I know exactly how I'm going to get it next time.
Yeah. I think that's a
You know?
mindset thing. That's a growth mindset thing. Is realizing that not all failures are just failures. There's lots of opportunities in that failure,
Yeah.
and you can learn from it a lot.
And I mean, I always want my students to do well educationally early on, because that's something that I didn't do, and I felt it difficult and hard to get the things that I wanted later, because you need that bit of paper that says that you can do this and do that kind of thing. You know, everything's about that. But PT qualification.
I was quite lucky in that where I didn't do super well in school either. In fact, the last year of school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so they can't just leave you in that last year. And I pretty much just played guitar in the cupboard for the last year, come out with the exact same grades I had the year before. Academic life wasn't really for me. I knew it was never going to be for me. I ended up getting a trade, and it wasn't until I was in my second year of that apprenticeship with the electrician I was like, actually pretty good at this, and started paying attention because I was engaged.
Yes.
And that's where academically I was like, oh, I'm not thick, so I can actually do this. And then from that I kind of learned, I got all my qualifications that mattered to me after school and through that Sparky stuff. And then moving on to coming into this industry, it wasn't a big deal for me to switch industries and do something completely new, because I knew that the qualifications I could get afterwards, everything was learnable as long as you're interested and engaged with it.
Exactly. Yeah, engagement's really important. That's something that I feel is missing in mainstream schools in the UK, is engagement.
Oh yeah, big time.
You know, we're using a very Victorian style teaching method still.
Yeah.
You know, but then I think it's the UK's ability or lack of ability to adapt. If you look at places like Finland, Denmark, Germany, some small elements of the US, not all of them, but some small elements, you look at their teaching style and the way in which they're engaging with their students, and they're getting much more better results from a younger age than what we are here in the UK, because we haven't got that ability to adapt. And that actually takes me back to my campaign story, is the reason why we've become successful in our campaign. So we started competing this time last year, and when we've got a bit of a partnership with another dojo down in Denny, a lovely team of people that have really supported us through our journey. We had a meeting with those guys in October last year. Sorry, not last year, the year before. And we had a conversation around how can we get the students that we have here in Aberdeen to a decent committee level in karate. And he says it's going to take you, realistically, it's going to take you 5 years. If you follow what we're doing, learn what we're doing, it'll take you 5 years before you start seeing medals. If you're willing to go on that journey, then your guys will be successful. So I'm like, right, I'm in. 5 years, okay. 5 years, I can sell that to the students. We can mature them in that 5 years to get them to that decent level. Then we went to a training session, and it was he came up and he brought some of his best fighters to our dojo, and we did like it was like test matches type thing, a training day kind of thing, and he could see that we came from that sport karate route, that kickboxing kind of route. So he knew that we weren't going to do well in tournament, so it was going to take more closer to that 5 years. But we watched everything that he did in that session, and we copied it. So for the first tournament, we came away with I think it was 9 medals in the first tournament. He was like, what's going on here? You know, so he was totally baffled that in the space of, I think it was about 4 weeks, we adapted our training plan for our students and taught them how to do what is required for kumite, on a basic level, and we walked away with 9 medals on that first tournament.
Amazing.
Second tournament we did the same. Third tournament we did the same. By the end of the year, we had 1 Scottish champion. So we have 1 current Scottish champion training in our club right now.
Brilliant.
And a year ago, she was one of the ones that was learning the wrong stuff and going down the wrong route into the kickboxing route.
Okay.
You know, and now she's a Scottish champion in karate. And we have the talent here in Aberdeen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's our ability to adapt that has allowed the talent in Aberdeen to be seen on the greater scale. So much so that mid-campaign, it was like, well, scrap the 5-year plan. We're going for the 1-year plan here. And we want to invite you to your first international tournament in Poland.
Excellent.
And that's happening in about 4 weeks' time.
Oh, great.
You know, so we're taking 19 competitors, and they're all competing in their first international tournament in Poland.
Wow.
With a year's experience.
That's incredible.
You know, and they've just had that 1 year to adapt to a new thing. And I think if we adapt in our roles, so if you adapt in your role here and look at what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve, then things will change a lot quicker.
Yeah.
If you stick in your old ways, you stick to one way. You know, it's getting back to the first aid course, and you were talking about my course was different.
Yeah.
Why was my course different from everybody else's?
It wasn't boring for a start, but I think it's the experience that you brought to it, and engagement. Again, we were just super engaged.
Yeah.
So, you know, it wasn't just a tick box thing to get done for insurance purposes. Do you know what I mean? It was somebody invested in the whole process and why you need it.
And how was I seeing it from my perspective?
Plus, if we're more engaged, then I don't know, you're going to get better feedback off it.
Yeah, so, you know, I was looking at it from how can I... The challenge for me is exactly that. It's a tick box for you guys to come in from Pure Gym and from other places. And I've noticed that, and I've got another client called Rely on Newtech. It's an oil and gas company, and I teach first aid for them. And a lot of those guys, it's literally, I have to go to this course and tick a box kind of thing, you know. Yeah. And in the first 10 minutes of the course, I can feel that as an instructor. And I'm like, if I don't change their mindset in the next 5 minutes, it's going to be the longest day for me. It's going to be the longest, boring,
I was the
hardest
same.
day.
When we get told you go in the first day, and I'd worked for the council for long enough, I knew all the courses just droll to get through. So when we got told, you have to go do this first aid course, I was like, okay. And I remember sitting in the car outside, like, I really can't be arsed being here. I don't want to do this. But yeah, I think within like 10 minutes, like, this is alright. So I mean, just having a bit of laugh, engaging with people. There was a bit of backstory and character put into it rather than just monotonous.
Yeah. So what I did was, it was very simple. I turned a boring first aid course into almost like an immersion experience. You know, so you felt that you were the first aider. You felt that you were the person that's going to help this other person.
Yeah.
You were given the skills, but at the same time I was showing you exactly why the skills are important in the first place, rather than this is how you do this is how you put a bandage on, great stuff, tick. You know?
Yeah.
I could have done that. I could, you know, these first aid courses I can teach from my eyes shut. You know, it's basic compared to the level of qualification that I have and withhold. But it's not for, you know, if I came in with a different attitude and led with my ego, say, and just said, look, I'm this and I'm that, and you'll do what I say, and that's it, then we'd be having a different conversation. You'd be telling my first aid course was crap, you know. But it's not for me to do that. I've been given skills, and I've been given the ability to teach using all the skills that I've learned all over the years, so the 25 years I've been teaching. And I've been given those skills, and it's a privilege, so I should use those skills in the best way that I can. And that is to teach the next generation, the next people, the skills that I have, and at the same time give them a little bit of insight into the work that I did to make it more real for them. Yeah. You know? And that's essentially, so I've turned a first aid course into an immersion experience in a sense.
Excellent. So what now? What's the plans for the dojo and for yourself? What's in the near future? I mean, you've got to Poland in a few weeks. That's probably taking up a lot of your brain power just now. But
this year, well, Poland, we've got Poland, but we've also been invited to, obviously off the back end of doing a lot of training with our Denny partners and obviously going to a lot of tournaments and things like that. They can see the standard that we have. They can see the standard where it can be in 5 years' time. So we could be looking at more than one Scottish champion. We could be looking at maybe even British champions, maybe even moving into the European field and things like that. For us, it's getting them there. It's a very costly thing. So our focus right now is to adapt to new ways in order to get our students to the experiences that they deserve to be in. So that's going to take up a lot of our time in regards to the dojo. We want to expand, we want to grow. We've got some expansion plans in place for how we're going to maybe change the layout in order so that we can
get more people and stuff.
So we want to get our classes a bit busier. Well, currently it's a push at the minute. We've got 20 to 30 kids per class at the moment. So there was 29 people in last night for the teenager class. So that group has really expanded. And that's per class, and we have 5 classes a week. So it's busy. It's there's a lot of people coming, but we believe that we can help more people. And it's not that we believe that we can make more money, because we certainly can't. It's definitely, if we wanted to be millionaires, we certainly would not have become martial arts instructors. It's definitely a way that we can help more and more people not become the patients that I was looking after in adult life. And that is our main goal. But that's just one element. We do have, obviously, Northwind is where we met through the first aid course. The dojo aspect is the bonus part, but we also have Northwind as well, which is growing in the background. And we have been teaching a lot of various qualifications all over at the moment: first aid, manual handling, patient handling. We're training embedded in with a lot of care home and care providers at the moment. But we also have our agency side as well. So we are an agency. And we are in the sort of initial phases of potentially getting some big clients through the agency side of things as well. So we are quite busy. We're busy people.
Sounds like it.
But we surround ourselves with the right people. So if we're busy, they're busy, and we feel like it's not busy in a sense. So
you mentioned that before about being around the right people for success. That's like completely something that I believe in it and talk to people about is, and part of the reason why I come to results in a competing sense. So for me, it's like if you hang about with the right people, it'll bring you up. Same goes for going down the way as well. But for me, it's like if I wanted to be stronger, a better athlete and perform better, I need to hang about with people that are doing that already. And that's the case, because you go around, it's just a great atmosphere for growth. Everybody's really supportive. Everybody's got experience and from different perspectives. So it's a case of hanging about with those people. This has become our norms now, and you just kind of level up. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if I continue to train at Pure Gym, say, it's like, no, I could just sit in there and have a really nice ego, and do you know what I mean? It wouldn't take me anywhere.
But then if you look at Pure Gym, what did it give us? We both worked at Pure Gym. So I worked there for a very short period of time. I worked there because I had a different scenario that I foreseen. Okay, I needed the experience to work in a box gym, to work in a big gym that had a high turnover of people. I needed that experience so that I could put it in my own gym.
I was absolutely the same. So I needed help to grow. It was a new industry for me. Pure Gym offered that, and it got me in front of a lot of people, way out of my comfort zone, got me teaching classes and things, which I do now really well in here, with my own format, because I got the confidence to do that and freedom to do that at Pure Gym.
I'd say Pure Gym's a bit like a trampoline. It pushes you, bounces you to that next level. You know, so it pushes you to jump a little bit higher. So then you've got that little foundation there that gets you into the industry. Then it opens it up to Results Gym. It opens you up to Mindsparx. It opens you up to other levels. You know, so it's got its purpose.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I think if they just did it in a different way, they could, you know, a nicer way, they could retain a lot more people. And I wouldn't be doing first aid courses every week, you know. So, but I think it's definitely the foundation of what.
Definitely. It was definitely a massive part of certainly myself growing. It's literally the foundation of moving upwards.
And then you move on to that next stepping stone, and then you move to that next one, and you just keep going, you keep going up, and if you don't, you just go back down, and you bounce again,
or stagnate. I call them still people. They're still in the same place, still complaining.
Yeah, exactly. A year's time they'll be complaining about the exact same thing.
Static.
And that's interesting. Is you've got to be careful with your circle of people as well, because if you allow, there's going to be people that want to be in that group,
just stay at that level,
that they don't belong to that group yet. They haven't made the changes in their own life to warrant being in the successful group, but they want it so bad that they'll do anything to be in it. So they'll not show their true self, and they'll get in there, but when they get there, they realise how hard it is to stay in there. So they revert back to their old self, and then they become the anchor for the rest of the group. So the rest of the group is now stuck at that level, because they're stuck at the level of the least successful person within the group. And sometimes you need to break free from that. You need to get rid of the people that are holding you back. They're successful, but they're just not where you want to be. So you get rid of that, and you move up to the next level as a group, as a you know. And sometimes that's the toughest part, because we're kind, we're nice people.
And letting go is hard.
And letting go of old habits is hard. Letting go of not old people, but that's the wrong way to say it. But letting go of people that are just not ready to change. Because if they're not ready to change, then it'll change the entire dynamics of your group. They'll become not ready to change and be a bit more sluggish, and then you're kind of stuck in it. You're stuck in that rut. I'm too driven for that. I need to move to that next level. I need it. That's my goal in life, is to push to the next boundary, push over the next hurdle, climb the mountain, get to the top, you know. And you have to be able to be willing to let go of old stuff to get there.
You know? Absolutely.
Or you're going to be stuck.
I think that goes for yourself as well. So I talked to somebody recently, it's actually a bodybuilder, Stu from Pure Gym as well, and he explained it in a way like when people are coming into coaches and fitness and likely yourself as well, and trying to grow past, they've got an idea of where they want to be, but it's not where they think they're going to stay. So they've kind of got this old mindset, and that's kind of their ball and chain, and they just won't let go of it. And the first opportunity they get, they'll revert back to it. And it's a case of trying to get them to cut that off completely, so they can just keep moving upwards.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's a lot in that, in the sense that, you know, there's a lot of my old self that sometimes creeps up and is like, what are you doing? Getting back down here, you know? And I think everybody goes through that. I don't think anybody's exempt from their old self and that kind of thing. And I've got to look at like the hurdles that I've accomplished in the last 2 years, and it's been some pretty scary hurdles. Not just in business, but in health. I've had a couple of health scares, and it's made me look at not just me as a person, but everything that I'm surrounded by as well, and everything that I do. And where we were 2 years ago is completely different to what level we're at now. We've got the same goals, but we're in a different place to where we were. And I think one of our biggest things that made us look at our life was the fact that I'd spent 4 days in intensive care, not 4 single days, but 4 times as a patient in intensive care in the space of 2 years. And it was through have you ever heard of the Alexander technique?
No.
No. So the Alexander technique, it's an old, talking like Victorian time, kind of many moons ago type thing. And this guy, he was a young 22-year-old who was very successful in business. Became a millionaire back in the day, probably like £1,000, but it would be a millionaire to them kind of thing, you know. So he had a lot of assets, a lot of things, but by 25 he became really unwell, and he had the money to go to the best doctors all around the world, and that's what he did. And they were telling him all various different things, and they couldn't come up with the reason why he became so unwell. So what he decided to do was look at his own life and look at everything. He actually went to the extreme of turning his entire room into mirrors like this, all around the room, and he studied himself. He studied every single aspect of himself and found that his posture had changed from being a 22-year-old to a 25-year-old. He noticed that he slouched more. He noticed that he was sat at a desk most of the time. He made these sort of he's seen all these different things that was happening to his lifestyle that was different when he was a young guy. So he was successful and pushing forward and moving forward, but when he became successful, he was at a desk every day doing paperwork and things like that, so things changed for him. And because of that, he thought, well, if I put my body into certain positions, will it change back? And it did. And this is where the Alexander technique came about. And I was introduced to that Alexander technique because about 15 years ago I was in a car accident. I broke my back, and from that point I've had bad posture, so I slouch. And it's actually really painful for me to stand up straight. I see a physiotherapist every month, Amy Clark, one of the best physios in I would say in the UK, for sports. Works down at Spear, down at the Sports Village. Absolutely fantastic physio, and she keeps me going literally every month. She unlocks my back for me, keeps me going so that I can do the martial arts and things like that. But back to the Alexander technique. So he put himself into these different positions, and it was to neutralize his spine into a more comfortable position through the Alexander technique. And it's a technique that's used to this day in order to improve your lifestyle through putting your body into different positions. I'll tell you about it after the thing. It's quite interesting. And by using the Alexander technique, I was able to then improve my posture and things like that. But looking back at it, so over that 4-year period, I'd been diagnosed with this this condition that people have. There's a lot of people have it, but I didn't fit the normal remit for those people that have it. So it became like an abnormal case of it, and literally every time I went for an appointment, there was like 4 scientists in the room, and they were taking notes and things like that, because I'd become this abnormal case. Because I was fit, I was in the gym, I was doing weights, I was doing martial arts, but I was at the same time having these anaphylactic episodes where I would be go from reading a book in bed to full-blown airway completely closed over, can't breathe, ambulance on the way, into resus, all these kind of things, trying to save my life on 4 different occasions over that 2-year period. And at the end of on one of the last times, that they told me that there was not much more they could do for me, and that one of these times could be your last time, and we'd actually, interestingly, we'd booked a holiday, and I thought, God, this could be my last holiday, so I'm going to go on it regardless of how I feel. And it just got, one of those times I got out of intensive care was literally just a couple of weeks before we went on holiday. And every doctor was like, you can't go, you're medically unfit to travel, do not do it, don't go. What did I say? I'm going. I'd paid all this money, I'd worked hard for that holiday, I'm going on this holiday. So I went on the holiday, and I was really unwell for the majority of the holiday. But there was a point on the holiday that I was in the water, and I feel comfortable in the water, and it kind of broke me free of something. You know, I was able to just like float there, and everything felt amazing. And then I started to enjoy the latter part of the holiday.
Yeah.
But when I got back, I was really unwell, like really, really sick, loads of swelling, and it got to the point they said, we're going to have to do reconstructive surgery of your entire face to open your airway up enough that when you have swelling, it might allow you to have more space.
Wow.
You know? And that's when I was at this point, and I was like, what the hell has happened to my life that's got me to the point that I need full-blown reconstructive surgery of my jaw, a 2-year procedure, by the way, so it takes up 2 years of life, which would completely impact my ability to do the work in the dojo. I wouldn't be able to teach first aid. I certainly wouldn't be able to run an agency, you know, so it was about to impact my entire life. And then we decided to make some serious changes and have a proper look, almost like the guy Alexander did in the mirror, you know. And we looked at what's our stress levels like. Well, they're out the roof. We're running 2 businesses, you know, 2 successful businesses.
Yeah. And
we're doing it by ourselves. We're literally doing it, myself and Tracy, that's it. You know, we had no help. So we decided to promote on a voluntary basis a company method. So we introduced a team, and that team we introduced, was it last year? So this time last year, we introduced that team, and they all had different roles within the organisation, and it meant that it took some of the pressure off us instantly, you know. So that was the first thing that we adopted. The second thing was we looked at what we're eating, and what we didn't realise, and it was because we were so busy and so in it, that we were eating takeaways every single day.
Yeah.
But not just once a day.
Okay.
Every single meal was a takeaway.
Right.
You know, we'd go to a coffee shop, Costa, Starbucks. We'd go to we would get Deliveroo's and Uber Eats and all these other things, you know, and the stuff would be coming in constantly, and we would just be eating this stuff. And on a small portion, there's nothing wrong with it. You can have a takeaway. You can go to Starbucks, but when you're living it every single day, for every single meal,
it's going to take its toll.
It's going to take its toll, regardless of the amount of fitness that you do, you know? And this is what didn't fit in. I was living the unhealthy lifestyle in the healthy environment. Yeah. You know? And that's what didn't fit, and that's why there were scientists in the room saying, we just don't understand what's going on here, you know? So, so we took a real big deep dive look into what was happening in our lives, and we reduced our stress. We reduced we stopped eating takeaways for an entire year. We've not had a takeaway for an entire year. Wow. Cancelled all the apps and things like that, and we started cooking, Tracy started cooking, and cooking real good quality food. Yeah. Like no crap in it at all, just real good quality stuff. Not like rabbit food and all that kind of boring kind of all these fad diets and crap like that. It's all rubbish. Pure food with good portion sizes, you know, and portion control in a sense as well. And and within the space of 6 weeks, I started to notice a difference. The medication that I was on 14 tablets 4 times a day, taking these different medications that were keeping me alive, stopping my throat from completely swelling over. Yeah. My neck I had no neck. I had a massive swelling out here. Really? And everything started to reduce down. I was able to get down to 2 tablets a day. You know,
inflammation was going away with changing diet.
Inflammation was going away. Things were changing. Stress levels were coming down. Relationships were getting better. Everything started to improve within the space of 6 weeks. And I went to the appointment that they were going to do the surgery, the pre-op kind of consultation. Yeah. And there was 2 consultants in the room, and I says, look, I'm doing something. I'm doing a new plan. It's working. I don't want to do the surgery route just yet. And one consultant was like, no, you need it straight away because, you know, you're going to die without it. And the other one was, well, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with your plan. So I had one consultant that was pushing the surgery and one consultant that was saying, I want to wait and see if this actually works. So it was good to have that reassurance from a consultant level to say, right, let's hold off on the surgery. And 1 year on, I rarely get swelling.
Brilliant.
I take, I've got a cold right now, so I'm taking some tablets at the moment to make sure the swelling stays
everybody's
away.
got it just now,
But I managed that really effectively.
Yeah.
And I've been on another holiday and to the same location. But this time I had an amazing time. There was no swelling, there was no illness, there was nothing. And touch wood, the last time I was in intensive care was last summer. So I've gone a good period of time without being in hospital and in the requirement, this kind of thing. It's not to say that I won't ever be back in hospital again with it, but it's given me the opportunity to not get to the level of care that I was required, which was intensive care, being intubated on a ventilator. It's never got back to that stage, so it's getting less and less and less and less the more things that I change in my lifestyle.
Brilliant.
So it's about adopting that into the kids' lifestyles that we're doing in Mindsparx at the moment. So we're looking at ways in which we can educate parents on the right stuff for the kids to be eating. Because right now what we're seeing is some really scary results, and the technology base and the food base is the two main factors that are going to result in major impact on our healthcare system in the next sort of 10 years. And these kids are experiencing that right now. They're not waiting 10 years time. They're experiencing it. They're having issues with their health, they're having breathing problems, and they're also having mental health issues.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. Like, physical ability is way down, mental issues way up. Especially in youth in the schools. And it's there's probably quite a few factors, but it's easy to look at and say, like, we super easy access to crap food, basically. All the sugars, additives and fast food is so readily available and cheap, for the most part. And screen time, tech, like, they can get on that so easy, it's normal. But overexposure to it as well, and what they're exposed to on it as well, massively impact.
I mean, we're looking at kids. We've kind of set up a thing at the moment. We're focusing on online technology and our kids having access to that and things, and seeing what they've been exposed to, and trying to highlight that to their parents to show that, look, you might think that it's an innocent group chat, or it's an innocent gaming app type thing, or there's a number of different things. We watched a documentary on Channel 4 very recently, and it looked at technology and what these kids are exposed to, and it was horrible to watch. Within 4 hours of starting up a new device and saying that I'm 13 years old and can I get on a TikTok, within 4 hours of getting access to TikTok, those children were exposed to porn. 13 years old. So they've highlighted, I'm 13 years old, I'm on this site, I'm a 13-year-old, but within 4 hours of that, they're exposed to porn. Which is certainly not material for a 13-year-old.
No, it's not.
So, and that's, porn, but there's also hate crime, and there's also violence and death online. And people are being exposed to it, kids. But that's age 13 when you're allowed to be on Facebook. If we did a sort of hands up, hands down in one of our classes, and the class was aged from 7 to 10.
Right.
And I just asked them some questions. I just says, hands up if you've got WhatsApp. And all of them put their hand up. Hands up if you've got Facebook. All of them put their hand up. Hands up if you've got TikTok. All of them put, hands up if you've seen something that you don't want to see on your feed. All of them put their hand up. So they're all being exposed to it. And their parents think that they're doing them a solid by letting them, we're the cool parent because we're letting you be on social media. But really, what you're doing is you're going to cost them a massive expense in the future, and it's not money, it's their mental health. It's their ability to be a normal human being in a normal world with all these added extras of mental health issues.
Yeah.
You know, and that's an ultimate cost there.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a heap of kids, so you know, it's always stuff that we're exposed to, and finding, you know, tips, tricks, and life advice and stuff online as well, for us, because we've got them at all age groups. We've got our 15-year-old, him, we've got our 2-year-old,
Yeah.
and we've got everything in between.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got them at all stages, and with the school's involvement as well. Yeah, schools,
don't get me
schools are
started
a bit
on the schools.
Schools are a bit of a pain point for us.
When you've got schools that are making clinical, medical decisions for your children, that's when it becomes a very scary.
Yeah,
scary
and thing. I think a lot they just don't have the trick. So I done mentoring with a high school back in Bulgaria when I was still doing the Sparky stuff. And they were also looking for people out in the real world. And Colin was looking for exposure, and I'd done a careers day for them, and they're like, by the way, I'm like, yeah, cool. So it was kids that weren't really getting attached with school. And I kind of related with that because I had hated school and until after I left and realised that I wasn't stupid. And so I come in and done this mentoring thing with them, and the teacher was telling me, look, a lot of these, I was like, why do you not do this like in-house? Do you not have career days and stuff like that, career advice and mentoring and stuff? And they're like, no, they want, for the mentoring side, it's somebody that's not got that same authority, that's not got the connection, so they can talk easier. I'm like, fair enough. As for the career stuff, a lot of them don't know. They've not seen the outside world, so they go to school, they go to uni, they go back to school.
Yeah.
And they see nothing of like actual life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can't actually advise
Yeah.
students on anything past their subject. I'm like, that's pretty scary, actually.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've met a lot of, we're going to go back on a wee tangent here, but I've met a lot of kids over the years that are very similar, and I say kids, teenagers, and when you look at the sort of span, and I encourage all of my students to at least try college or university.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to feel the same hurdles that they'll feel if they don't.
Yeah.
You know, so they might be willing to, you know, some of them are looking at, well, actually I just want to start a business. I promote that as well, because I didn't really need the stuff that I learned at university or college or school to run a business.
Yeah.
You know.
But you learn very quick running a business.
But you learn very quick to run a business because it's real life.
Yeah.
So we do a leadership program within our school, and that leadership program does promote a little bit of business work so that they get a glimpse of that.
Okay.
And they can then decide, what do I want to do in my life? Do I want to start a business? Do I want to work for someone? Or do I want to go to college? Or do I want to aspire to be something else and go to university? You know, so we give them all the options.
Yeah.
And we support them in whichever avenue they want to do.
Great.
And some of them surprise me. Some of them are, they want to be me. They want to run the school.
That's
you know,
nice
we've got kids that are like, you're an amazing sensei, but I can't wait to take your job. You know, so and you quite believe that they're probably the ones taking over in the future, and that's great because it means that one, I can retire, and two, we've got someone else teaching the same methods over and over again. It keeps going down the generations. But then you've got people that are really have got a plan in place. We've got one student, absolutely love her enthusiasm for knowing exactly what she wants in life. So she has a 5-year plan in place already.
Wow.
She's 13 years old.
Wow.
She has a 5-year plan in place already. She wants to be part of the Scottish team for Crive to start with. And then she wants to think about her career, her full-time career. So she's going to become a police officer. Then she's going to work her way up in that, but she's going to do a degree first so that she can go in at officer level.
Okay.
And then she's going to apply for Interpol and work as an agent for Interpol. And she's reeling this off. And I'm believing every single word she's telling me. You know, usually you get kids that'll come up and say, I want to be an astronaut or something like that, you know. And it's like, oh, great, well done you keep going for your goals and that kind of thing. But I'm sitting there like, wow, this girl has planned this. She's gone into every single detail and she knows exactly every single bit that she needs to get to the next level.
That's brilliant.
But she's adopted the exact same process that I have, the stepping stone method.
Yeah.
So she knows that she's going to get the exposure of being on the Scottish team, travel all around the world, which is going to give her that world experience.
Yeah.
Then she's going to be join the police, probably from the ground up, work her way up at the same time as doing a university degree to get her in at that officer level. She's going to use the degree and the officer training and the experience that she's going to get at that level to then go work in Interpol.
Yeah.
So she's used the exact same method as I have to open my dojo.
Brilliant.
You know.
Yeah, that's excellent. Inspiring the future.
Inspiring the future.